All right, what's going on, everybody? We're just going to jump right into this one. Just wanted to call out that I really do appreciate you guys dropping a like. It really does mean a lot. It helps the channel grow, helps these videos hit the algorithm at least at a smaller clip compared to my main channel. And it also just shows me that you guys support me just rambling on for 10 to 12 minutes. I think that's pretty cool. We just surpassed 6,000 subscribers, so the channel is growing slowly but surely. Just wanted to call that out and thank you all so much for the support. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cyberpunk 2077 is really Cyberpunk 1977. At least it plays like it was made in 1977. All right, so let's break down this situation, right? CD Projekt Red has made multiple video games, and I consider them a AAA publisher, okay? They used to be, I believe, an indie developer back in the day, which means they had smaller budgets, couldn't really create the amazing games that we've experienced, but they created The Witcher and the whole Witcher franchise games, and those games, especially The Witcher 3, even on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, were amazing looking games, okay? Amazing immersive experiences. So it really blows my mind that they released this game in the state that it's in. But they really just, had to release this game at some point because they've already dealt with 2 delays this year due to what's going on in the world, right? So a lot of people were mad at them for the second delay especially. So they kind of just, forced their hand here and just released the game. And on the, PC version, it's phenomenal looking, right? But even on the higher end gaming PCs, the game is still suffering some frame rate issues at max settings. But this video is particularly about the last gen consoles. And what I mean by last gen, I mean the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. All right, so just to kind of give you guys some knowledge on some technical terms and just technical, just technology, to be honest with you, gaming PCs are the way to go if you want a game to look great in terms of ray tracing. You don't even need that, to be honest. You can even get a graphics card that doesn't have ray tracing. You don't need to get a $1,500 graphics card in order to play a game at extreme max settings. I mean, you can get a pretty decent one for a few $100. You can get one for $1,000, and it still will play phenomenally on a majority of games. But for some reason, Cyberpunk 2077, even on some of the maxed out gaming PCs, is still suffering some frame rate issues on max settings, which is a pretty crazy thing considering that most of these gaming PCs can play 99% of video games at 120 frames per second, meaning the game runs smoother and they're able to play at max settings. So that means texture renders, that means, shadows, that means lighting, that means making the game look as phenomenal as it can, right? So that's what I mean by some technical terms that I'm going to be using throughout this video. But once again, we're talking about the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions, which undoubtedly have some outdated hardware. But that doesn't give CD Projekt Red the excuse to release a game to the particular owners and to the console owners of those consoles if the game cannot run properly. So I'm going to show you guys a quick little clip here on the screen of Cyberpunk 2077 playing on I believe it is a base PlayStation 4. It might be an Xbox One. I can't really remember, but regardless, it's a last-gen base console, and the game has awful textures. And what I mean by textures, I mean the actual graphical layers of the car or the floor or the walls, right? They're not rendering properly at some point. Sometimes it's even a PlayStation 2 looking game because the textures just aren't rendering. The game is also running at 12 to 15 frames per second, which is just not smooth at all. It's almost like watching a stop motion video, right? It looks just awful in terms of performance overall. The lighting looks horrendous. The shadows don't even look like they're there. It's just an awful looking and performing game on the last gen consoles, at least the base version. And even the PS4 Pro, I'm seeing not as many people or NPCs within the city. I'm not seeing as much lighting. I'm not seeing as many shadows. And you might be saying, well, Cryptix, the graphics are not going to be good on last gen consoles because the hardware is outdated. Okay, fine, but then why is The Witcher 3 so good looking on the last gen consoles, right? This is the same developer that created that game. I understand that, there were people that had to work remotely due to the current circumstances, but then why release the game to the people that own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One if it's going to look this bad? right? So at the end of the day, like the frames, everything just looks bad overall. But for some reason, some of the CD Projekt Red, I guess, fanboys or just fanboys of Cyberpunk 2077, particularly the PC players that are actually fortunate enough to be able to get, a nice desktop or can, basically play this game at a higher setting in terms of graphical overhaul, they're saying to the, console people, oh, get your bread up, or, oh, make some more money instead of complaining. But that's not like the principle here. The principle is CD Projekt Red released this game for $60 to the PlayStation 4 owners and the Xbox One owners, right? If they only released it to the PC players and to the next generation consoles, then these, last generation console owners wouldn't have to, one, waste $60 on a piss poor performing game, and then also, at the end of the day, maybe they would work harder, I guess, if they have the opportunity to, but that's besides the point. There just wouldn't be this issue overall, right? So here's what's going to end up happening. There's going to be two scenarios, in my opinion, of what's going to occur. And I'm going to be bringing in another just historical overlook over another game that actually had some pretty solid optimizations considering, this was, I believe, an indie developer at one point. But PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, I believe PUBG, what it was known for, was one of those games that was like, a battle royale. And I don't really play it anymore. I play Warzone more just because I think it's just smoother looking and just is more fun overall. But PUBG still has, I believe, some decent viewership on Twitch. This game, when it was launched, was just terrible in terms of optimization for pretty much PC and a majority of console owners, right? Like, the game was just horrendous overall in terms of performance. And then as PUBG got more money, or the actual PlayerUnknown developer, they, were able to make optimizations down the line and make the game more smooth. The UI was better. It was able to perform on consoles better. So this is a scenario where, CD Projekt Red might come down the line and optimize the game for last-gen consoles and maybe even next-gen consoles to run as good as, some of the things that we've seen at E3 in the past. I just hope that this is the scenario, because for the people that spent money and were hyped up about this game that have a last-gen console, they're suffering right now. They are down bad, all right? They're playing a PS2 game on their PlayStation 4, right? So it's just not looking too good for them, but it's also unfortunate and it looks bad on CD Projekt Red's side. Their stock is going down because of this. So hopefully down the line, within the next couple of months or so, they can make optimizations, fix the bugs that are even occurring across the board, regardless if they're PC or on a generation, next gen or previous gen console. Even myself, I have suffered some game crashes on my PS5, which is pretty inexcusable considering it's a next gen console, right? So overall, I just hope they can make optimizations, make the game better. And when I say by optimizations, I mean actually changing the coding, modifying the coding, doing certain things to make the game run smoother and better, and, have the textures render at a higher clip and make the game run smoother in terms of frames per second, aka FPS, right? So this is what I mean. I just hope that CD Projekt Red can make those optimizations and make the game perform better despite, previous gen hardware. Now, the second scenario is something that's just not gonna look good and leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth considering the situation. But they might have to refund these people, because it could, honestly, I think it could result in a class action lawsuit if the game is, at least in its current state, going to be stagnant in terms of, no optimizations being made, nothing being done for the last gen version of the game. There could easily be a lawsuit put in place because people spent $60 on a game that is just not performing even at decent standards. It's 12 to 15 frames per second. If you've ever played a game like that, and then you play on a game that has 60 frames per second, you know exactly what I mean in terms of smoothness. And considering this game is a first-person shooter in a sense, obviously it's an open-world RPG, but in a lot of scenarios you're doing first-person shooting battles, you need to have precision. You need to be able to let the game run smooth so you can actually aim and target your enemies and, make certain movements and do certain things in terms of reaction time with hand-to-hand combat. There's a lot of things that occur with smoother gameplay. And when a game is playing at 12 to 15 frames per second, it's just literally unplayable. So these people might actually sue CD Projekt Red, at least the purchasers, or maybe they band together. Something may happen there where, Projekt Red just got to basically refund these people the full $60, which, one, is going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth that has the last gen consoles and can't get next gen, or just simply can't afford a gaming PC. And this is a very unfortunate scenario if this does occur, okay? This is just a scenario that I am predicting here. Don't want to spread any rumors, but it could just, be really bad in terms of, the shortage of consoles right now in terms of the next gen supply. A lot of people can't even get one even if they had the money. So a lot of people may just stop playing Cyberpunk. And I'm already seeing a dip across the board in terms of gamer population, in terms of the concurrent users on a given day. Even on Steam, I'm able to see that on PC. And that just goes to show you that the game is just not optimized across the board, even for the higher end PCs. But at the end of the day, Cyberpunk 2077 is playing like Cyberpunk 1977 right now. The clip that I showed you in the beginning of the video just is prevalent of that. At the end of the day, I hope CD Projekt Red can make optimizations for everybody, honestly, across the board and fix the bugs as soon as possible. But particularly, even the last generation console players, I really hope they can make the game a better and overall just smoother experience for them, especially considering, like I said, this game is based off of combat and you need to have precision and smooth gameplay for it. But at the end of the day, they might need to refund these last gen people because it's just an unplayable game in its current state. So I hope you all did enjoy this video. Drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much for letting me rant to you guys for about 11 minutes. It was definitely a good time, and I love making these videos, by the way. So dropping a like, sharing is great for the channel. I'm Cryptix, playing Cyberpunk 1977 and making the game crash, or at least letting the game crash, on my PlayStation 5, which is a next-gen console. And signing off.